Good morning everyone, my name is Vicky and I would like to welcome you to this morning's webinar. For those of you who have just joined us, we have already completed a sound check. If you need to adjust the sound at all, you can turn your volume up or down on your phone, or if you're using a microphone and speakers option this morning, you can adjust the sound on your computer. So today's webinar will be recorded and a link to the recording will be sent to all attendees after the webinar has finished today. And we will also include a copy of the presentation slides as well. So there is really no need to worry about writing down the content included on the slides during the webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can type these into the questions box on your control panel at the right of your screen. And we will also have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar, and we will try and get through as many questions as we can. So the first part of this morning's webinar covers the year-end process in Thesaurus Payroll Manager, and this will be presented by Audrey. And the second part of the webinar, I will be focusing on how you can use ROS for your payroll-related files and returns. So we'll get started without delay. I'll now pass you over to Audrey. We're also just going to turn the webcam off so you can see the full screen for the duration of the presentation. So over to Audrey.
Thanks, Vicky. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm just going to open up the software here before we get started. So just to get started then, the first thing you really need to make sure that you have finalised before you would commence any of your year-end returns, your P35 or your P60s for your employees, would be to ensure that you have all pay periods for the tax year finalised or updated. So under the Payslips menu, you have the option to update Payslips. So it is important that this would be done for each, final pay period for the, for each pay frequency. Sorry. So if you've got a monthly payroll, the pay date when you go to finalise your any pay period would default to whatever day is on your computer. For your weekly or fortnightly payroll, it would increment by 7 or 14 days from the last pay period that you have processed. So it might seem quite basic to say to update all pay periods for all pay frequencies, but if there has been a reverse update or anything like that, you should always ensure that everything is, completed. So just to go into the software for a moment. So under the Payslips heading, Payslips, we have update Payslips. So I'm on the monthly payroll, and as you can see, it is putting in today's date. So to update my month 12, I would change the pay date there to be the correct pay date for my pay period. You should always look at your payroll preview before updating and just make sure that you are happy with what you're about to update. So the payroll preview can be found under Payslips and Payroll Preview Quick Edit. So once I'm happy with this, I would update my final pay period. Back to Payslips and update Payslips, and I just change the pay date to be my pay date for that month. Okay, and update. So as always, it will take me in to take the backup, and it is important that the backup would be done to an external drive, so that if anything should happen to your PC, you have a copy of your data to get you back up and running. So when you get the message to say that a backup already exists, it is important to say yes to overwrite it, and this will give you the most recent backup. Okay, and close. So it's now telling me the update is complete for my month number 12. If in any doubt, you should always check the status bar at the bottom of your screen, and this will show you exactly where your payroll has been updated to, and that will be there for each pay frequency. So on your weekly payroll, you should ensure that it's saying updated to week 52 or 53, whichever the case may be for the tax year, and monthly that it has been completed up to month number 12. Okay. So we'll just go back to the presentation now for a moment. So just to discuss week 53, this is a very topical question, both before we finish up for Christmas and when we come back in the new year. So week 53 occurs when there are 53 weekly payrolls in the tax year, and it will fall on the 31st of December or in a leap year on the 30th or 31st of December. So in 2015, only employers paying on a Thursday required a week number 53, and for 2016, it will affect employers paying wages on Friday or Saturday. Okay. Thesaurus Payroll Manager will always offer a week 53 subsequent to the completion of week 52, However, week 53 should only be processed if on completion of week 52 there is a subsequent pay period within the same tax year. The programme automatically applies the revenue rules for week number 53, so where there is a requirement for week 53, there is no user action required. The system will do that by default. It is very important to follow Revenue's PAYE calendar, so we are very passionate about only processing a week 53 when it is, applicable to you. Okay. So when you have completed the update for that final pay period, you would then issue final pay slips to your employees. So to do the pay slips, or to print or email, you would go to Payslips and print email pay slips. And pay slips can be printed or emailed, so that's complete user preference. So pay slips and print or email pay slips. There's a number of different options for the printed version of the pay slip. The most popular one would be the 2 per page, but you also have the option then to email pay slips. So this will only show employees that I have email addresses entered for. And when you go to print the pay slips, you can tick to exclude employees from email addresses from printing. So if you do have a combination of printed and emailed pay slips, that would just help to filter it. Okay. So when you have issued the final pay slips, then the next step would be to do your P30. So we'll just go back to the presentation there. So you would prepare and submit the final P30. So you would access the ROS menu within your software and P30. You would prepare the P30 report that you have used year to date. So that is either the P30 by date or the P30 by week number. So both forms are acceptable by Revenue. So just stick to the one that you have used for the whole year, just to be consistent. Okay. You would review the P30 totals for your last tax period. So either your month or quarter ending the 31st of December 2015. Okay. So just we'll go back into the software there again. Okay, so under ROS. You have P30, so you have the 2 options there. So as I said, just use the one that you have used year to date. Okay. If you have entered any payments on the system, you'll see the payments coming up here along with the corresponding pay date, and it will show any balance that is payable. So the December column is the one that I'm concerned about, either for the month or for the quarter. So this would be your final tax period. Okay. So you can prepare your P30 for ROS. By clicking on the ROS menu there, and it will just ask you for the return period, whether you're a monthly or quarterly. So if you're monthly, select monthly, the period start date, okay. And the figures will automatically be populated, from the information that has gone through on your final pay slips. Let's type in a contact name, prepare file, okay. So this by default will look to save it to your C drive into the ROS folder and into a P30 folder, and it'll be called your employer number, the tax year, and then the tax period that you're preparing it for. Okay. So once saved, that's ready for uploading to ROS, and Vicky will cover that shortly when she's covering the ROS returns. Okay. So on the Thesaurus, you can enter in your payments, as we saw. So just to do the payments, to record the payments, if you go to ROS P30 and you're within the report, you can click on payments. So just enter in that final payment that you have made to ROS and the corresponding pay date, and it will accept a 2016 date within here. I'll just put in my date first. Payment and update. Okay, and that payment section, payment record, is only for your own use. It doesn't go through to ROS at all, so the payments record on your ROS would be completely separate. Okay, so another step would be where employers pay medical insurance on behalf of employees. You are required to include the portion of medical insurance premium that is eligible for tax relief for each employee on the P35. So the 2014 P35 was the first year that was mandatory. So this is the second year of it. So medical insurance providers will advise employers of the amounts for each employee. These amounts must be input into the payroll for all applicable employees prior to submitting the P35. Thesaurus Payroll Manager will not prepare a ROS P35 until this requirement is met. So this does only affect employers with employees on the payroll for whom a medical insurance benefit is present in the payroll. The reason the programme won't prepare the P35 until that information is entered is that ROS would reject the P35. Okay. So to enter the medical insurance eligible for tax relief, you would access the utilities menu within your software and input medical insurance eligible for tax relief. So all employees will be listed, but choose the first employee record for whom a medical insurance benefit exists. So you can enter the tax relief at source or the medical insurance eligible for tax relief as advised by the medical insurance provider. So any TRS figure that you enter will automatically be incremented to give the medical insurance premium eligible for tax relief, and that is what the revenue are looking for. That is their requirement. So that amount cannot exceed the taxable premium paid by the employer. So in other words, the value of the benefit that the employee has been taxed on through the payroll year to date. So when you've entered in that information, you would click on Update then just to save that entry. So just to show that on the software, so you access the Utilities menu, input medical insurance eligible for tax relief. So just select the first employee for whom you have a medical insurance benefit. Okay, so this is the medical insurance that has gone through on the payroll. So what I'm entering here is the amount of that premium that is eligible for tax relief. Okay, so once I've entered it, just click on Update to save that. So it'll tell me that it has been updated. Okay. So after that then, you would review any end of year reports into Thesaurus Payroll Manager to ensure that you were satisfied with the final payroll information and figures prior to proceeding to the P35 submission. So you can access the year-end report by going to P35 and P60s and select the P35 spreadsheet file copy. So this report gives a full listing of all employees employed within the tax year for all pay frequencies. Okay. Employees' wages as processed each pay period are accumulated and displayed. So the information will then be transferred to the P35 for the ROS transmission. Payroll checks then, but that you need to do when you're reviewing this P35, you must ensure that all employees employed during the tax year are listed. So in other words, nobody has been missed from your payroll. Okay. Ensure that all employees have a PPS number. In the absence of a PPS number, the minimum requirement would be the date of birth and the full address. Okay. So revenue will not accept a P35 without a PPS number unless there is a date of birth and a full address entered for the employee. Ideally, you would have a PPS number for every employee on your payroll, but in the absence, that is the minimum requirement. If there has been a deduction of LPT, a PPS number is a mandatory field, and the P35 will not go through with an LPT deduction where a PPS number is not present. So if any employee had multiple employments during the tax year, so if somebody was with you, they left and they came back, Thesaurus Payroll Manager will automatically amalgamate such records when preparing the ROS P35. Revenue will only accept one record per employee, so the program will automatically amalgamate any duplicate records for you. Okay, so if you do spot any errors or omissions on the report, they should be rectified before proceeding to prepare and submit your P35 to revenue. The reverse update function can be used to revise historical payroll information if it is appropriate to do so. Okay. For information that has been omitted, such as a PPS number, address, etc., you would simply update the record and add and amend employees. Okay. So just to have a look at the software there. So it's just closed on me there. I'll just have to reopen it. So under P35 P60s, we have the P35 spreadsheet file copy. So this is a very simple report, it's very easy to read, detailing all employees that have been paid throughout the tax year. Okay, so I can see when I look at this that I don't actually have a number, or PPS number, sorry, for Joe Adams. So I'd like to enter that now because I do have it. So I can close out of my report, go to employees and add and amend employees, select Joe Adams, just enter in his PPS number. Okay, and update. So I now go back to my P35 spreadsheet file copy. So I can see that I now have a PPS number for all 3 of my employees. Okay, so just reviewing this, making sure that I'm happy with it. Everything looks okay. I've only had 3 employees in the tax year. They've all got their 52 insurable weeks. So I'm happy with that. Okay, and that can be printed for my own records there if I like. So prior to submitting the P35, you should establish the payment status of the employer. Is there a balance payable to revenue on submission of the P35 in addition to the periodical P30s made on account? Maybe there's been an overpayment, therefore in a reclaimable position, or is there a zero balance? So you should reconcile payments made to revenue as per the ROS account, and that can be done by preparing a ROS statement of 2015 payments on account. Okay. So to prepare a ROS statement of payments made on account, you can check the P30 periodical payments made on account to revenue for the tax year by logging into your ROS account and selecting Revenue Records. From the options menu on the left-hand side, select Payments and choose the tax type PAYE-EMP and the tax year 2015. All payments made for the tax year will be displayed on screen. So the P35 deadline is the 15th of February, or for any companies that cease trading during the year, it's 46 days after cessation of the business. When you're satisfied that the payroll is complete for the tax year, you can proceed to preparing and submitting the P35. So to prepare the P35 for ROS, you would access the P35 P60 menu and choose the ROS P35. Okay. So you should ensure that all validation issues have been resolved. Enter the contact details as desired, select Continue. The payroll will default the file location to C, ROS and P35L. If you're happy with that, you can click on Prepare File. If, for example, ROS is on a different computer, you could browse and choose the location of, for example, a memory key. Okay. So just to go back into the software there, so under P35 P60s, we have the ROS P35 option. It will always ask you to ensure that you're on the latest version, and you can check that by going to Help and check for updates. Okay. So you can enter in any contact details here that you wish. Click on Continue, okay, and then click on Prepare File. So the ROS P35 file has been copied to the specified location, so it'll always be named the last 5 characters of your PAYE number dash the year 15.P35. Okay. You do have the option to view the ROS P35 XML file. It's not the easiest thing to read, but it is done as ROS specification. So you can look at it if you wish to do so, but the reports are a bit more user-friendly. Okay. If after submitting an original ROS P35 it came to light that there had been a mistake, you can make a change to your payroll, and again under the P35 P60s heading, access the ROS P35. And you can tick to prepare an amended P35. So this is if you have successfully uploaded a ROS P35, this will allow you then to prepare an amended one. Okay. So submitting the ROS P35 then, so you log into your ROS account at revenue.ie to submit the P35 and select ROS Login. Enter the password associated with that certificate and select Login to ROS. Okay. ROS will automatically bring you to the My Services section. You would select Upload Form Completed Offline and select P35L from the drop-down list of forms and click Upload Return. Okay. You click on Add File, select the P35 file for upload. So if ROS doesn't bring you to the location that you have saved the file to, you do need to browse to that location. So for example, C, ROS and P35L. Choose the 2015 P35, which we said is the last 5 characters of your PAYE number dash the year 15.P35 and select Open. At that point, you would enter in the associated password again and click on Upload File. Okay. The P35 L, LT, LF, and P35 declarations. So these are all, I suppose, the manual forms that some people may have completed in the past. Will all display on screen. So it's one file that you upload to ROS, but they read it, if you like, as the separate file types. Okay. The P30 payment detail totals submitted for 2015 will show these are from your account with revenue and not from the payment record within your Thesaurus Payroll Manager. So the P35 summary will show if you have an outstanding balance, a nil balance, or if you are in a refund situation. Okay. So as mentioned, this calculation is taken from the payments made on account via your P30 and the total liability for the year, which is reading from the P35 that you have just uploaded. To proceed with the P35 submission, you must choose if you will make a payment of the ROS prompted amount. Now, if that amount is equal to the December, either the last month or quarterly P30, then you wouldn't repeat that payment. Okay. So you can enter the payment details at that point, or you can opt to file a return only. So if you're in a refund position, or if there's a zero balance, or if revenue just aren't reflecting that last payment, just choose to file a return only. Okay. So if you're making a payment with the P35 submission, you need to select the payment method. So that is either your debit card or a ROS debit instruction. The amounts due will be displayed on screen, and you can enter the total amount of the payment. Enter the date of the payment, and if paying by ROS debit instruction, you can set that to the 23rd of February 2016, and then just click on Next. You can see the next option there on the print screen. If you choose to make a payment, you then need to confirm that payment. So confirm the file upload by entering in your password. You sign and submit. You will get an acknowledgement confirmation on screen. You should retain that number. That's your confirmation of your ROS P35 return. And an acknowledgement of your P35 will also be sent to your ROS inbox. Okay. So when you're filing a return only, that's a return with no payment, you select file a return only, so you can see the option here, okay, on the print screen there, file a return only, so that's the option you would choose. Click on Next, confirm you wish to file a return only, i.e. no payment. Confirm the file upload by entering your password again. Sign and submit, and again an acknowledgement confirmation will display and will also be sent to your ROS inbox. Okay. So just to move on then to P60s, so a P60 is an employee certificate of income and deductions for the tax year. So if you like, the statement of earnings showing details of all deductions, PAYE, PRSI, USC and LPT if there was any LPT. It would also show if there was any illness benefit tax through the payroll for the year. P60s are only issued to employees still in your employment as of the 31st of December. So anybody that leaves during the year prior to the 31st of December would not be entitled to get a P60 from you. If an employee leaves on the 31st of December, they are entitled to receive a P60. So they would receive a P45 and a P60. So that's only if they leave on the 31st of December. You're only required to issue one P60 per employee, and they should be issued to all employees by the 15th of February. So the deadline is the 15th of February for P60s also. Revenue advised that P60s need only be made available to employees. Therefore, issuing P60s by email is an acceptable revenue compliant format. So if you email Payslips during the year, then it would make perfect sense to email your P60s also. There's no requirement to print them. You can email them in the same way. Revenue no longer provide P60 stationery, so all payroll software providers are permitted to print the P60 template to a blank A4 paper. The Thesaurus Payroll Manager prints P60s in accordance with the revenue guidelines, and we also cater for P60 in the Irish language if anyone chooses to use that option. Okay. So to print or email the P60s, you select the P35 P60s menu. Select individual employees by clicking on an employee name, or alternatively you can click select all to issue P60s for all employees. Select print or email from the print email option, and if you do have two pay frequencies, you do need to click on the window menu, choose the alternative pay frequency and print the P60s for the other pay frequency. Okay. So that's the P60 template as printed from the software. So we'll just go into the software now. Okay. again, under the P35 P60s menu, you have P60s. Okay, so all employees for the pay frequency that I'm in, which is my monthly, will be listed here. Okay, so as we mentioned, you have the option to print or email. You can also preview them on screen. So if you did want to look at them on screen before doing a physical printout, you can tick to preview on screen, highlight the employee or select all and click on print. So that'll be displayed on screen for you. So that's exactly what it's going to look like when it is printed out. Okay. If I wish, I can exclude employees with email addresses from printing in the same, the same way that you have that option for the print payslips. So I choose print and exclude employees with email addresses from printing. I'll only see the employees without email addresses on the software. And when I go to email, I'll only see employees that I have email addresses entered for. Okay. For the Irish language P60, you simply just tick here to indicate that you would like to print it in Irish. And if you have anybody on your payroll for the year that hasn't received any payment, but you would like to print a 0 P60, you have a tick option here, so that will facilitate a 0 payment P60. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. That's the year-end process covered on the Thesaurus Payroll Manager. I'll now pass you over to Vicky, who will deal with the ROS payroll-related returns. If you can just bear with us while we just do a very quick switch over. Thank you.
Thanks, Audrey, there. And if you do have any questions just on the year-end process, do remember you have your control panel there on the right-hand side of your screen just to type in any questions. So just now to look at using ROS alongside the Thesaurus Payroll Manager. So Audrey has just covered how to submit your P35 through the Revenue Online service. So I will now just guide you through how you can use ROS for your in-year files and returns in 2016, so this year. So firstly, to actually log into ROS, the easiest place to go is to the Revenue website, that is revenue.ie, and you'll find here that just on the website there is the ROS login button. So clicking on here, this will bring you through to the ROS login page. So in step 1, select your digital certificate from the drop-down. In step 2, enter your associated password, and at 3, just click log into ROS. Just something to note there as well, you can only log into ROS on the PC to which your digital certificate is saved. However, you can apply for more than one digital certificate from ROS should you require it on another machine. So this is probably one of our most common support calls at this time of year, and that's regarding the P2C files. So we'll take a look at this topic first of all. So how to export your PAYE and USC P2C details from the Revenue Online service and bring them into the Thesaurus Payroll Manager. So the P2C is otherwise known as the employer's copy of an employee's PAYE tax credit certificate. This is going to include all details of the employee's tax credits, their USC cut-off points, any LPT deduction, which employers are then obliged to apply to their employees' pay. So at the start of a tax year, Revenue will issue everybody's P2C files for all the employees that they have under your PAYE number. So for the start of the tax year, these usually issue around the beginning of December. I think it was around the 10th of December, this for the 2016 tax year there. And you should receive an email notification in from them to let you know that you do have new P2Cs awaiting for you. The email address that they will use is that which you have registered with ROS. So notification of your new tax year P2C files and any amended P2C files during the tax year will be sent to that email address. So the starting point for exporting your P2C files is that you first of all need to log into ROS, and once you're in your Revenue Online service there, simply click on Revenue Record. And down your left-hand side under the options, you'll be given the option to click on PAYE and USC P2C details. On selecting this option, If your tax year is not defaulting to the current tax year, simply use the little drop-down arrow to select the current tax year. So obviously it's 2016 for us here. So at the start of the year, you want to bring in everybody's details. So you'll be leaving everything else blank here. So simply select the tax year and click on search. Here, your search button here. On clicking on search, all your employees will be listed below, so all their tax details will be listed below here for you. So you have two export options, and just depending on what time of year it is, this will just guide you through which one you need to choose. So your first option is to export a complete list. And this is the option you are always going to choose if this is the first time you have exported P2Cs for the new tax year from ROS. So, you know, at this time of year, you'll be doing export complete list because you want to bring all your employees' details in. During the year, if there are amendments made to employees' tax details, then you will be selecting the option to export amendments only. So this is the option you use if you subsequently export updated PCs during the year. So you'll do export complete list at the start of the year and export amendments only during the year. And this will then ensure that only data for the relevant employees is updated in your payroll software. Depending on the option, well, with both options, sorry, you know, if you export complete list or export amendments only, once you've selected one of these options, or depending on the internet browser that you are using, you may get the option to select where you are going to save your P2C file to. If you aren't given an option, then your P2C file will, in most cases, save to the default downloads folder on your PC. So, for example, if you're using Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, these are two internet browsers that don't give you the option where to save to. So, by default, they tend to always go straight into your downloads folder for you. Internet Explorer, on the other hand, so if you're accessing ROS through Internet Explorer, then you will be given the option where to save your P2C file. And where you are given the option where to save it to, we recommend somewhere where you're going to find it easily again. So be it your desktop, straight to your C drive, to My Documents, or your downloads folder there. Okay. It can happen quite quick once you've clicked on export complete list or export amendments only, and sometimes you might think, have I actually downloaded that file or not? And a way of checking is that while you are in your internet browser, if you press Control on your keyboard and J at the same time, a downloads window will pop up for you, and if you have downloaded your P2C file, it will be sat at the top of your listing for you. Okay. This is quite handy as well if your Payroll Manager software is on a different PC. And often if your P2C file is saved to your downloads folder, you may need to then get that onto a USB key to bring across to the machine where your payroll software is. So Control and J gives you easy access to the location where your P2C file has gone. So once you have exported your P2C file from ROS, this is now ready for bringing into Payroll Manager. And basically within Payroll Manager, you're going to simply click on the ROS menu and select P2C and the option to update from revenue tax credit file. Maybe just be worth pointing out here as well, if you need additional help on this, we do have help documentation that you can access here, and also a video as well. So after the webinar, if you just wanted to watch a further video, you'll find one here. So as soon as you click into the P2C file option, what Thesaurus Payroll Manager will do, it will automatically search the computer to see if it can locate recently downloaded P2C files for you. And the location is searching is, first of all, your downloads folder, your desktop, your C drive, and your My Documents folder. So again, just going back to the previous slide there, where you are given the option to where to save your P2C file to, we recommend one of these 4 locations. So as we just said, Thesaurus will do its best to try and locate your P2C file for you. And if it does, you will get this pop-up screen here, which states recent files found in common download locations. So it will search for files which are less than 31 days old. So if you have any P2C files that have been downloaded that are older than 31 days, they will not be shown in the listing. And that is to avoid importing old P2C files and accidentally overwriting more recent revenue instruction that you have received. Each file that it finds will be indicated by the date it was saved. So you'll see on screen here it says today's date, so obviously that's a P2C file that has been exported today. And that should then allow you to easily identify the right P2C file to bring in. When you do get this pop-up message, so where Thesaurus does automatically detect your P2C file for you, all you do is double-click anywhere on the line to start the import of your employee information. In the event that Thesaurus can't locate your file automatically for you, all is not lost. What you can do instead is simply click on Locate File at the top left of your P2C screen and manually locate your file yourself. And on selecting your P2C file, all contents of the P2C file will be displayed on screen for you. So once your employee details are displayed on screen, we do recommend just clicking Print P2C Details at the bottom of that screen so you can print out a file copy for yourself. And this will be an actual copy of the P2C file in full as you have exported it from ROS. So it's just quite handy just to have a file copy of that just to refer back to should you ever need it. Then once printed, all you need to do is click Update, and this will update all your employee tax details that are contained within the P2C file. That will update the revenue details section of each employee's record for you. So I just want to show you a practical example in Thesaurus. So once you have exported your P2C file, I'll just open the software here. Okay. So I'm going to go to my ROS menu, P2C option, and update from revenue tax credit P2C file. Now, because my P2C file that I'm using in today's example is older than 31 days, I'm not getting that pop-up window to say that there are recently found files. So instead, I'm going to click on Locate File. I'm going to browse to where my P2C file is and click on Open. And everybody who's contained in my P2C file is now displayed on screen. Here you'll find the print button, so if you wanted just to print a copy of what you're seeing on screen, you can do so here. And then when ready, simply click on Update. And you'll get confirmation that the update is complete. So the following pop-up screen is worth just reviewing because it's going to tell you here, well, first of all, it's going to provide you with a listing of the employees who were included in the P2C file and who have been updated in the software for you. And again, you can print a copy of this for your records should you wish to do so. And more importantly, the not updated section here also needs reviewing. So if you're finding that you have employee names in either of these two sections or both sections, there may be some action required here. So the first not updated section here are employees who are on your payroll, so they're in the payroll software, but they are not in your P2C file. And that could be something bona fide. For example, maybe you've got new starters and you've set them up in payroll, but you still haven't got any tax details back from revenue yet for them. Or maybe you still need to submit their starter information to request new P2C files for them. The bottom section are employees who are in the P2C file, but couldn't be matched to employees in your payroll software. So the first thing to always double check is that you have your PPS numbers entered correctly, or maybe you've omitted a PPS number from an employee record and the employee is in the P2C file, but it can't be matched up. The P2C file will always match using PPS numbers, hence the importance of getting them in the software and entering them correctly. Alternatively, people appearing in this listing could also represent maybe leavers, so they're no longer on your software, but maybe revenue haven't updated their records at their side. So, both sections here will just need reviewing and action where required. If these are possibly new starters that you haven't yet added into your software, you can use this little shortcut here to actually add the employees in. So if I just click on this option here, so I'm going to click on add some or all of these employees to the payroll. Okay, so I'm then asked to indicate which payroll type I wish to bring the employees into. So is it weekly, monthly, or both? So I'll just do both as an example here. So for example, Lily Gore here, I want to add to my weekly payroll. So I click on this option here and I'll do Matthew Cowley as a monthly employee. And I just work down my listing and select which pay frequency I want to add them to. And I click on finish. So it kind of speeds things up for you. It's going to create an employee record in Add and Amend Employees for you and bring in all their revenue details all at the same time. Any employees that you do set up in this manner, we by default set their payment method to cash, and we also set their PRSI class to A1. So it is recommended then that if you do use the P2C file to set up your employees, you may then just go back into Add and Amend Employees and just fill in the extra details. So maybe it's that they should be on check, for example, and A0. So you can go through their employee record and amend accordingly. Okay. And I just have a couple of print screens here in the presentation. I've just shown it on the software, but just for your records, the two print screens there on how to import, how to set up an employee from the P2C file. So just moving on, so a number of payroll-related files and returns can also be uploaded into ROS during the year. And these are, for example, the P45 Part 1 for leavers, P45 Part 3s and P46s for new starters. You can also upload your monthly or quarterly P30 return, Audrey touched on it briefly there in her section. And all these can be firstly be created in Thesaurus Payroll Manager and then submitted into the Revenue Online service. So all these in-year forms are uploaded in the same place on ROS, and that is within My Services and under the section Upload Forms Completed Offline. So we'll just take a look then at producing and submitting a P45 Part 1 for a leaver. So after you've raised a P45 in Payroll Manager for an employee, if you are registered with ROS, you are obliged to upload Part 1 of their P45 through the Revenue Online service, just to inform Revenue that the employee has now left your employment. So after issuing the P45 in Thesaurus, to then prepare the ROS P45 file for upload into ROS, you're going to go to the P45 menu and prepare ROS P45 file here. This will bring you through to the ROS P40 file screen, and all you do here, your employee first will be in the left-hand column here. So you're going to highlight the employee's name, click on Add, and it will add them to the right-hand side. If you have more than one employee to issue a P45 to, so say you have 2 or 3 employees in the listing, you can actually do a batch P45 file here, and you simply repeat the process. You bring the employees over to the right-hand side. Once complete, simply click Prepare File. This then brings through additional information at the bottom. So all you need to do is enter your contact name and telephone number, which is optional, and then you click on OK. You're then presented with the screen for saving your P45 file. So you simply save the P45 file to a location of your choice. By default, it will prompt you to save to your C drive, your ROS folder, and your P45 folders. You can leave that as is, or you can change that to another location if required. The default file name will always be P45 file.p45. However, this can be amended if required. So some people often like to put the employee's surname in front of it, especially if there is a number of P45s to do. When you click on Save, you'll then get the prompt that the file has been prepared and saved, and you are now ready to upload that into your ROS website. So again, I'll just pop back to the software just to show you a practical example. I'm just going to issue the P45 first to my employee, Joe Adams. We'll see he's leaving on this date. Okay, so you will get the prompt when you issue a P45 that you should now prepare your ROS P45 for ROS. I'm just going to go to P45, prepare ROS P45, and you'll see my employee is in the left-hand listing. I'm going to select his name, click on Add, and he's ready to be included in my ROS P45 file. I then prepare file. Enter a contact name and telephone number if required, and click OK. And so it's now prompting me to save my P45 file. So I might just add the employee's surname at the start of my file name, and I click Save. And that's now ready for upload into ROS. Okay, so when ready, when you log into ROS, so as just mentioned, you're going to go to My Services, and under the option to upload form completed offline, you're going to select the option P45 and 1 in brackets for a lever, and simply click Upload Return. This will bring you through to the following screen, and all you do now is click Add File and browse to where you saved that P45 file to. On selecting that P45 file, it will then appear in this box here, so it will be listed here. And all you do then is enter your password again and click on Upload File. If successfully received by the Revenue Online service, you will receive an acknowledgement in your ROS inbox. And so you should always just check for that acknowledgement just to make sure that it has been accepted successfully. Once the P45 Part 1 file has been filed, then you will immediately get back parts 2, 3, and 4 of the employee's P45, which can then be printed. So the employee's P45 is always printed from ROS and never from Thesaurus. The copy that is in Thesaurus is a pro forma only. It's a file copy only and is never a valid P45. So the official P45 of the employee must be printed from your ROS inbox. And you also need official revenue P45 stationery as well. It's a buff-coloured paper perforated in 2 places for parts 2, 3, and 4 to go on. And it has, excuse me, the revenue watermark in it. So again, you can't use plain A4 paper to print that P45 onto. If you don't have revenue P45 stationery and you are uploading a P45, then you can contact the Revenues Forms and Leaflets section, and the telephone number is there for you there on screen. It's 1890 306 706. And they're usually pretty good. They get it out to you pretty quickly there. Okay, so other in-year returns that can be uploaded into ROS are for starters. And there's 2 types of starter information that you can upload here. The first one is the P45 Part 3 and also then the P46. So for an employee who has previously been employed during the tax year and they are now commencing employment with yourselves, they should be giving their new employer Part 3 of their P45, which was issued to them from their previous employer. On receipt of this P45 Part 3, you're then required to submit this to Revenue via ROS, and this is going to notify Revenue of the employee's commencement of employment with a new employer. Okay. On receipt of that P45 Part 3, Revenue will then issue a tax credit certificate, or otherwise known as P2C, for the new employer. Okay, and that is an example there where you would select to export amendments only when you're exporting your P2C files from ROS. So to prepare, first of all, the P45 Part 3 file in Payroll Manager, you're going to be going to the ROS menu, the P46 and P45 Part 3 option, and in this instance, because they've worked already in the tax year, we're going to be choosing the P45 Part 3 here. This will bring you through to the P45 Part 3 screen. So again, simply select the employee from your listing, and in the Extracts from Part 3 of P45 section, all you need to do is enter the registered number of the previous employee, that will be on the P45, their date of leaving, and any LPT that has been deducted from them already, and simply click Prepare file. Similar to preparing the P45 Part 1, you'll then be given the option here to save your P45 Part 3 to a location of your choice. And in this instance, the file name will automatically default to your employee's PPS number this time. And again, you can amend this if required, if you wanted to actually put the employee's full name on it, for example. And again, the default location that Thesaurus will give you is your C drive, your ROS folder, and your P45 Part 3 folder. On clicking on Save, you'll then be prompted that it's now time to log into ROS and submit the file. So again, if I just pop back into the software to show you that in action, so I'm going to ROS, P46 and P45 Part 3, and my P45 Part 3 option, select my employee from the listing, and any LPT deducted, and prepare file. And there's my file name, and I simply save the file. So to now upload that, I just covered the P46, sorry there. Yeah, sorry. So that's the P45 Part 3. So that's for anybody commencing employment with you who has worked previously in the same tax year. If you have a new starter who is commencing employment with you but hasn't previously worked in the same tax year, then you instead you will need to prepare a P46 upload for ROS. Okay. And again, when ROS receives this, this will then generate a new P2C file for the new employee. So to prepare a P46 file in Payroll Manager, this is done in exactly the same place. You're going to ROS, P46 and P45 Part 3, and you're selecting either P46 for single employee or P46 batch file. So if you only have one employee, you can use the single employee option, or if you've taken on a number of employees all at the same time, you can do a batch file option. If you are doing a batch file, Revenue recommend a maximum of 10 employees in each batch file. So say you had 40 employees, just as an example. They recommend just doing 10 in your first batch, and then another 10, another 10, another 10. Okay. So with the P46 upload, so in Thesaurus, then when you've selected this option, again, simply select the employee from the listing. This screen will automatically populate from their record in Add and Amend Employees. So you will need to have set them up in Add and Amend Employees first, and then you do require at least 2 lines of their address for this file to be prepared. Okay, so it will automatically populate for you. All you're doing is selecting the employee name and click Prepare File. Okay, and again, it's really very much the same process all the time. You'll then be given the prompt to save your P46 file to a location of your choice. And again, it will default to the employee's PPS number. Okay, so once you've prepared both, well, in either option, your P45 Part 3 or your P46, both files are actually submitted in the same place and using the same option. So again, you're going to My Services and Upload Forms Completed Offline again. And it's the new employee option that you're choosing here. So regardless of whether it's a P45 Part 3 or a P46, it's the new employee option for both of these files. And then you click on Upload Return. And again, the pattern happening here, but like similar to the P45 Part 1, is simply clicking on Add File again, browsing to where you saved your P45 Part 3 or your P46 ROS file, entering your password in and uploading your file. Okay, and again, on successful receipt, ROS will then provide you with an acknowledgement there just to confirm successful upload for you. Okay, so just to finish, Audrey covered this in her section here on producing a P30 ROS file in Thesaurus. So just to expand on that a little bit here. So as Audrey did mention, a P30 ROS file can be prepared in Payroll Manager for upload into ROS. And she did just show you there and where to go. So a P30 ROS file is prepared under the ROS menu, selecting your P30 option, and then selecting the P30 report that you use for the year, so be it the P35 week number or P35 date. So you'll always choose the report that you have chosen to use for your tax year. Okay. So both reports here will bring you through to a breakdown of your P30, and at the bottom of the P30 screen is the ROS button, and on selecting this will then bring you through to where you can prepare your P30 file for ROS. So all you do is select your return period, so whether you're returning on a monthly or a quarterly basis, and then your drop down there will then give you your period start date. So if it's the first month of the year, it's the 1st 2016. Okay. On selecting your period start date, Thesaurus will automatically pull in your figures for you. So these figures here will automatically populate for you from your P30. And all you need to do then is simply enter a contact name and prepare file. Okay. And again, you're then just prompted to save your P30 file to a location of your choice. And by default, this will be your POAE number, the year, and the period you're doing your P30 for. And you're simply going to click on Save here. So again, if I just pop back into the software, so we're going to ROS, P30, and choosing whether we use P35 week number or by date, clicking ROS, whether we're monthly or quarterly, the period, and it will auto-populate for you. And all you're doing is prepare file here. Okay, and that's your ROS P30 file prepared. So in your ROS utility then, again, it's My Services, upload form completed offline again, and you're selecting P30 from your drop-down listing and upload return. And again, you're adding file, browsing to where your P30 has been saved, enter your password and upload file there. And again, you receive acknowledgement then. It may just be worth pointing out at this stage here that, I'll just pop back into the software here. Should it happen that you have any negative figures in any of these amount fields here, you can still go ahead and prepare the file. However, it will fail upload in ROS. ROS can't accept a negative amount in this manner. Where you do have a negative figure, the only option will be for you to do an online P30 return. So you won't be able to use this ROS upload facility. So you'll have to do a ROS P30 online return. And where, say, for example, it's a minus USC figure that you have, you'll have to put a 0 amount in its place. Okay, so again, you can't be putting the negative amounts in. In that instance then, the negative amounts, that refund, for example, can then be carried over to your next return. So a manual adjustment can be made to the payment you make against your next return. Okay, so it's just worth pointing that out here. Okay, so that just completes everything there now. So if you have any questions there, just bear with us a second. We'll just see if any questions have come into us.
Okay, so the first question coming through there is if P60s can be printed before the P35 and P30 returns. So yeah, there's no correct order, I suppose. Once your payroll is complete, you're good to go and print the P60s. So you aren't required to do all 3 returns, but there's no correct order once you meet your deadlines for each of them. Is that okay? So would I be correct in saying if all P30s have been paid in full each quarter and all is correct, then the P35 balance should be nil? So yes, that would be correct. Mm-hmm. So if all payments have been made, so even though ROS may not recognise that last payment when you're doing the upload, if the balance they're showing agrees with the last payment, the last P30, then yes, you would file a return only, and that would be everything paid in full for the year. Okay, so an employee who also has another employment, the person only worked for 1 month with us in August but remains in our books as she may be back with us next year. A P2C did not update for this employee when 2015 started, but I omitted to get one in August for them. As no other payment was made during 2015, do I need to do anything now? They are listed on the P35 for 2015, as I have them as an employee on Thesaurus. But firstly, I would say if somebody comes to you, even if there is a chance of them maybe coming back, if they've finished, if you like, that term of employment or that agreement, it is better to issue them with the P45. Because otherwise revenue don't know what they have earned with you, and it will affect them if they go on to do work with somebody else. And as we mentioned earlier, then if they do come back, you would set them up on your payroll again, and those records would be amalgamated then on your P35. So they're on your 16 software. If there's no payroll done on 16, you could actually delete them before you do any payroll. And it may be best to do a P45 on 2015 just so that revenue are aware that they're not currently working with you. So the next question there is, how do I check to make sure I've exported a P2C file? So if you want to check on the software, you can access the master file by going to Employees and Master File, and that will show a P2C date. Will we open up the software there?
Yeah.
So there will be a P2C date for any employees that have had a P2C file update this year. So you can see there.
Excuse our dates here. We're using a dummy file, so our dates are coming slightly.
Yeah, our test P2C file doesn't have a correct date, but you would see a P2C date for anybody that was included in a P2C update, so that would always be your check. The handout for this, all notes, the presentation will be emailed to everybody. So recording and the presentation, the slides will be emailed to everybody that is registered for the webinar. So I'm just looking here.
Just reading through the questions.
If I've uploaded the P2C already, can I upload it again to make sure they are correct? Did the tax credits and cut-off points not change in 2016? There's nothing stopping you from doing another P2C update. You can check that P2C date that we mentioned on the master file, but it will never do any harm by doing it again, because if it's the same information, it's not going to change anything. The tax credits and cut-off points, the standard ones, didn't change for 2016. It was changes to the USC rates.
Yeah, especially just if you did have any employees, after bringing in the P2C file initially, if you did have employees in the not updated section and it was possibly down to a PPS number issue, and of course you could then go into add and amend employees, amend the PPS number, and then bring your P2C file in again, just so those employees get updated.
Okay. So if I have an employee who's not leaving but is going leaving to go to training college, can I suspend them in the payroll system? So if it's just temporarily that they're going but you're sure that they will be coming back, there's no suspend option on the software, but you would just change their hours or pay to 0. So if they're an hourly paid employee, you can just put their hours to 0. If they're weekly, fortnightly or monthly paid and they get a basic pay, you just change their basic pay to 0. And when they come back, then you just enter their hours or pay again, and they'll just bring them back into the payment system. So can I process payroll in 16 without doing P30, P35 or P60s for 15 until after the 2016 payroll? The two programs are completely independent, so obviously with the time of year, the tax year finishes, most people are busy with Christmas, etc., the new tax year. So you can start your 2016 payroll, and at any time then before your 15th of February deadline, go back into your 2015 payroll and do your year-end return. So they work completely independently. So is medical insurance eligible for tax relief, inputted as an annual figure or entered monthly? Is this figure supplied by the insurance company? So that is a figure that would be entered as an annual figure, that is at the end of the tax year. So when all your payroll is complete and the annual benefit has gone through, that's the point where you would enter in the amount eligible for tax relief. And yes, that figure needs to be given to you by your health insurance company. Okay, so just to clarify, the year-end processes are to be completed in the 2015 software, and yes, absolutely, that's correct. So any of the year-end procedures, you would access your 2015 payroll again to do those.
We've just been asked as well if we can just show again when we got the report for the P2C file. So it's under Employees, View Master File, and you'll see here it's in the second grouping here, P2C file, this line here. So you'll have a date in it if you have successfully brought in a P2C file.
Okay, so somebody was just asking there, we had an employee leave us this year and I just issued the P45 for her on the system and was not aware of uploading the P45 Part 1 to Revenue and then completing the P45 for ROS for Parts 2 and 3, is it too late? So no, I mean, if the P45 has been entered on the system but hasn't been uploaded to ROS, you can do the ROS P45 now, upload it to ROS, and you'll get the parts 2, 3, and 4 then to print for the employee from your ROS inbox. So an employee finished her job on the 25th of December 2015. Do we have to issue her a P60? So the answer there is no. The employee isn't employed on the 31st of December, so they are not entitled to a P60 from you, only a P45. And where can I find a P45 Part 1 in Thesaurus to be able to send it to ROS? So that's under the ROS menu. I'll just show it there. So P45. Okay. So this is where you're creating the P45 Part 1 for upload to ROS. Just trying to,
sorry, just reading through the questions. A few people signing off, so it's just going through the questions.
Is it too late to issue a P45 for a summer worker who finished on the 21st of August 2015? I suppose it's never too late. Ideally, it would be issued at the time. An employee is entitled to a P45 the day they actually finish up, the day they finish, cease employment. But I suppose like anything, it's better late than never. So at least if you do it now before you do your P35, it'll, you can send it off to Revenue and it'll show also then on the P35. I think that's most of the questions answered. It's just hard just to go through them all. So anything that we haven't, any questions that we haven't addressed will be answered by email.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think we've gone through the most of them. There may be one or two that we've missed just that we do the way that they're appearing there, but they will be answered.
Just Geraldine there, can you link two computers together for payroll? You can. You would need, I guess you would need either a server or network location to put the software onto, and then if you have two independent PCs, you could link into that central location, so both PCs would link into that one location. Alternatively, if you could use something like Dropbox, for example, so a cloud environment where the software is placed into Dropbox, and then the two PCs then point to the Dropbox location there. Okay. Sorry, Caroline, we've just had to, let's just go back up through the listing here.
Okay, so just I think the question is that Thesaurus is saying the tax credit cutoff point or USC may be incorrect. That message would normally come up if the program thought that somebody's credits or cutoff points were a lot lower than normal or a lot higher than normal. It's not saying that they're incorrect. It is just a check to make sure that, now if they've been imported from ROS, I wouldn't worry. But sometimes people in the past have put them in manually incorrect. They may have got the credit or the cutoff point mixed up. So it is just a check to make sure that the information is correct, but a P2C import then, should be absolutely fine. If you have a new starter in January but a P45 from December, can you use the P45 or submit a P46? So no, I mean, if you're setting them up on 2016, you wouldn't put in the earnings from 2015, but you can do a P45 Part 3, putting in the date of leaving the previous employer as the correct one and the correct previous employer's registration number. It's just important that you don't put in the earnings from the previous year because they're no relevant. They're no longer relevant as we have commenced a new tax year. So I want to re-employ an old employee. How do I add them back on the system? There's no option to, to reactivate an old employee's record. You do need to add them as a new employee in the same way that any new employee would be entered. It's just currently not a facility to be able to reactivate an old employee record. But as we mentioned earlier on, the system would amalgamate them for the purpose of your ROS P35. So somebody's saying there they can't locate the P2C file, the change computer. So we might just follow up on that by email, just with the best maybe steps, just to follow through on that, if that's okay. And we can even make a call there to get that sorted.
Just a common call that would come into our support line actually is when choosing your P30 report, whether it's by date or by week number, and someone's just asking here actually what is the difference. It's a good question. P30 by week number follows the revenue calendar, so every quarter the first month of the quarter is always a 5-week month. So January is a 5-week month, and then February is a 4-week month, and March is 4, and then April is 5 again, and then May 4, June 4. So January, April, July and October are all 5-week months. So if you're following the P30 by week number, it will always put 5 weeks of your weekly payroll into that first tax month for you. It will completely ignore your pay date. So for example, your week 5 might have a pay date of the 2nd of February, but it will still put it into your January P30 return in that example. The P30 by date follows your payslip dates. So in that example I've just given, where maybe your week 5 is on the 2nd of February, that would then go into your February P30 return because it's picking up your pay dates. Okay. So it's so important that the P30 report that you choose to use from the start of the year, you stay with that report because it can lead to inconsistencies. Both reports come out the same at the end of each quarter and also obviously at the end of the year, but it's just so that you don't maybe miss a week here and there if you do jump between the two reports. So it's your choice, but as I just said, just stick with the one that you decide to go for, initially.
Okay. There's just another question there. Is it possible to reverse after update of Payslip? There are 2 different reverse update options on the software. You have reverse last update and reverse older update. So under the Payslips menu, you do have the option to reverse update. Reverse last update was simply just open the last period that you updated, retaining the information that you entered there, allowing you to change anything that does need to be changed, and then you can update the payslips again. The reverse older option will allow you to go back to historical pay periods. The consequence is that it will, anything if you choose, for example, to go back to week number 2, anything from week number 2 on has been lost and will need to be re-entered. So firstly, you need to choose the correct period to go back to. Is it the last period or is it an older? And just be aware that anything that you have done from that point on is undone. So for example, new employees, P45s, etc. would all need to be redone. So we will go back over all the questions. Apologies for any that we missed, but we will absolutely get to all of them that we didn't get to today by email. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, and recording and the slides will be sent on to you. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.